Happy Friday, everyone. It's time for Fitness Friday Live. I'm Liezel, and I started Fitness Friday Live as a way to answer your fitness-related questions that were coming through to me via my other live podcast that I do called Marketing Monday, where I share marketing tips and interview people in the marketing industry. And I thought there is such a need for Fitness Friday Live, and it's our third month. We're going into our third month now of Fitness Friday Live. You suggest the guests that I interview, I bring them onto the podcast, and we chat, and you ask questions live. So I want to know from you today where you're watching from. You can let me know, name, say, hey, Liezel, I'm so-and-so. I'm watching from Joburg, or hi, Liezel, I'm so-and-so, and I'm watching from Italy. Let me know. And then if you want to ask our guests any question, please, regarding fitness, especially cycling, if you've got a cycling-related question, I know as a female cyclist who's always at the back of the pack, I'm always too nervous to ask a cycling related question to my male counterparts in case they think I'm silly. I'm also the worst when it comes to changing a tire or anything cycling related. I can look good in the kit, I can look good on the bike, but when it comes to the technical things or little doing a down descent easily, I really do struggle, and I've been cycling for a number of years. So I'm quite excited to have our guest joining us live from the UK today. Was based in South Africa and now in the UK doing incredible things, uplifting cycling, especially for women in the UK. So our guest will be joining us live. Hey, class in session saying, Ollie watching from my desk in Cape Town. Ollie, I hope your boss isn't too much of a slave driver and letting you work too hard. And I know that you haven't been cycling on the promenade ever in Cape Town. So I hope she allows you to do that one day. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm seeing your comments come through as I introduce you to a specialist when it comes to putting together cycling and running events, who's been on the forefront of a number of big cycling events in South Africa, who knows how to put an event together, who knows a lot about cycling, who will answer any of the cycling as well as your fitness related questions. And I'm super excited joining us live from the UK today. Jenni Green, thank you so much for joining us on Fitness Friday Live. Welcome.
Fabulous. Thanks, Liezel. So awesome to be here and to talk about women and bicycles. I mean, as I said to you, I could talk for hours. So wonderful to have this forum and a platform to do this. So well done, you. Really cool.
Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
And we'll talk. We can talk for hours. That's a nice thing about being on YouTube and on Facebook Live. You can chat for hours. So Jenni, you will have to say someone's going to have to do this time out, or at events they always go that, or refill your coffee cup. I just have to tell everyone that you've got a brand new puppy in your life who might be jumping onto your lap in the shots.
She's only been with me for 5 days. Her name is Phoebe, currently passed out in her little bed. But if I do jump up, that's why.
Okay, that's fine. You're allowed to, because on my chair I'm actually sitting on the edge of the chair, and these are actually two dogs behind the mic, Luke and Leia. So I'm literally on the edge of the seat here, and they've taken over the whole chair, which is fine. Yes, it's now their chair. So Fitness Friday Live starts with a quick fire Q&A. Okay. Where we get to know you as quickly as possible. So we'll kick it off, and then we'll get to the hard-hitting questions. Are you ready?
And go.
Coffee and tea. I think I know the answer to that one. Beach or mountain?
Both. Definitely
South
both.
Africa or the UK? I've made it hard.
Currently the UK.
Okay, we'll forgive you because you've done so much in South Africa already with cycling. Yes, so we'll forgive you for that one. Favorite cheat meal?
Got to be chocolate. Got to be something involving chocolate. Definitely.
Favorite healthy meal?
Sure, that is hard. I eat very healthily anyway because I've got health issues, but sort of veggies, steamed veggies, some sort of boring.
The usual.
Very boring. Yeah. So I'm not a foodie really. So. Good thing.
And favorite cycling event in SA or favorite cycling event in the UK that we should keep an eye on?
Sure. I would have to say, in terms of favorite cycling event, I think anything women's top tier at the moment is really exciting. The racing is exciting. You know, they may ride shorter distances, but man alive, it's exciting. So I would say anything that has, you know, the top end of the women's side of things, to me is a great thing. You know, obviously, and this is not a short answer, but I think the events have changed now with COVID having hit the world. So I think kind of as we knew events before is going to be very different to how we're going to know events going forward. But sure, in South Africa, I'd have to say what was our ride Joburg would be my favorite event. Obviously, it's not when I ride. I haven't ridden it for about 17 years. But and in the UK, that's a hard one to answer. I haven't done a lot of events here, to be honest. We've got a little local ride called the Red Kite Ride. Excuse me, coffee's coming back. And there was a regeneration of red kites in this country. It's part of the country because they were basically extinct. And this whole sort of movement to get people's awareness of the red kite up and happening. So there's a whole club initiative that happens with the Red Kite Ride, and that's everyone out and doing their thing. So that's really quite a feel good event. So yeah, not a short answer.
Not at all, but we've got lots of time. I'm seeing a resurgence, or I'm seeing a start of what could just be my imagination of smaller boutique style events, like you've mentioned the Red Kite, and I just did one over the weekend called EPT Ride to raise funds for the creches affected by Bot River, by Wines to Wales and during lockdown, because Wines to Wales is a cycling event that doesn't happen, and they're a big fundraiser for various community projects. I'm now seeing these smaller boutique style rides coming up, and they're not really events. They're called 3-day or 2-day or 1-day rides, and they're all for a purpose, to raise funds. I'm not sure if that's my imagination or if you're seeing that as well. Yeah,
it's an interesting thing because the UK market is quite different in terms of putting charity first. So very much you can only get an entry if you agree to raise so much money or whatever the case is, which has not necessarily been the case in South Africa for a long time. I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago now when Momentum first came on board with what was 947 Cycle Challenge in those days. They, together with the event, created what we called Ride for a Purpose, which was, with event entry fees being so tight, and I know there's a big argument to be made. A lot of people go, the entry fees are so high. I think people don't really understand what it costs to put on an event, especially when you're closing down 100 kilometers of Joburg roads, and equally in Cape Town, the costs of that are just so high, and people kind of go, oh, what could it cost? And they add a few things on their fingers and they go, oh, you're making a killing. Why is it so expensive? And I think that is so tight. There is so little margin there to be able to say to a charity, here's X amount of money. Furthermore, to only choose 2 or 3 charities out of all of these charities that need so much is so difficult. So what in those days, what Momentum got really well done was to create the platform for people to choose their own charity to which you could then ride for your purpose. So whether it was for your puppy who you had rescued or your granny who was dying from cancer or whatever the case was, you could choose your charity and ride for that. So I think slowly but surely that culture is moving to South Africa, and people are definitely getting behind supporting a charity. Like, if I'm going to go and be selfish and sit on a bike for 3 days, let me make myself feel a little bit better by giving some money to whatever. Or it helps you actually push yourself through that pain barrier because you're doing it for a purpose sort of greater than yourself, which to me always makes it that much easier, isn't it? When you're really cucking a brick on a bike and you're going, why did I do this? And you go, oh, well, this is why, because actually I'm able to, and the people I'm doing it for aren't, or whatever the case is. So I think that culture is definitely shifting. It's very much the culture here. And obviously, as you're saying, with COVID, these events that aren't able to take place are losing big time charity income. And there's a lot of virtual stuff going on here as well. So, I think that culture of giving back, and Tan, who's my other half, has got a great saying that you only keep what you have by giving it away. And it's such a true thing that it only flows Beautiful. In a circle when you actually have, and so you give back. And it's really true. And the more you do it, the more that circle flows. So I think it's fabulous that people do that and have an event and give back and say, like, I have, so therefore I can give as well. So definitely.
You're so passionate about cycling. Where did your love of cycling start? I know you've been cycling for over 25 years.
Yeah,
I'm going to give your age away now.
Got the grey hair.
You started when you were 2.
No lie. I think it all started. My dad used to ride. When I was little, he had a road bike, and I remember we'd go for lunch somewhere at, I don't know, it seemed like forever away, and my dad would go, okay, I'm going to ride there, and I'll see you there. Mom and kids would drive, and dad would ride there. And I was like, gee, it's like miles away. And kind of the older I got, the more I understood what he was doing. And we obviously went into the BMX stage, which our generation seemed to have done. It sort of skipped a couple of generations after that. But he bought me a BMX. Bless his soul. I tease him about this all the time. He put pink handlebars and pink pencils and all this other crap. I was like, seriously? I'm so not a pink girl.
Shame, bless him.
Dad, come on, he's the most divine dad. I mean, he's my absolute best. So, I had my BMX and my brother had his, and we'd go and play. We had a cul-de-sac, and all the kids in the neighborhood had bikes, and we rode, and we'd sort of push a little bit further every time, just go out the road here and turn left and into the other cul-de-sac and not tell them. And, it just was that sort of independence and freedom that I think I just got so completely hooked on. And he had a road bike, and he had bought one for my mom, and my mom just didn't buy it her, it just wasn't her thing. And so hers kind of gathered dust, and I'd be like, Dad, can't I borrow Mom's? And the saddle would be right slammed down because the bike was too heavy. But I'd still like, just going to ride. As soon as I could reach, I was like, okay, I'm on it. And it just grew from that. And then as I got a bit older, I did other sports at school. I mean, cycling wasn't a school sport, still isn't really a school sport. Mm-mm. And I did the cricket thing and the netball thing and the, all the other stuff, tennis. And, I then went to varsity and I think went off the rails of sport a little bit like people tend to do. Yeah, and I partied a lot and then swatted a lot and got through it. And after school, I went off to the States to do a ski season and absolutely loved that. And kind of there I discovered the joy, actually, because we went off to Yosemite National Park for a weekend and rented bikes, went flying down the beautiful pass all the way into the riverbed. And we picnicked for the day and had a great time. And then we had to get back up to where we were staying. It was a skadonk, let's be real. And I couldn't get up. I was like, obviously now too much uni and whatever. And I had to get off and push. And I swore at myself the whole way up. But I did love it. But I was like, I'm not ever going to push myself up a hill on my feet again. That promise I made to myself that day. And I got back and a friend of mine loaned me his bike and it just grew from that. And then my dad was like, well, if you're back in it, then I'll get back in it. And then he and I raced together, rode and we did interclubs. And just the more I did it, the more I loved it, the more people I met. I then obviously went to try and find a real life job and I hated corporate and I landed up in the industry in those days. It was at Cycle Lab when it was in Paulshof. I worked there and kind of moved on with all of that. So, yeah, I don't know. It was just who I was. And I love it. As I say, I love that sense of freedom and that sense of achievement. And when I see that in other people, when they realize that same thing, there's nothing that beats that. Nothing. It's just fabulous. So, yeah, even now, it's just, you can see the nodding. I mean,
can relate.
You know that feeling. Mm-hmm. So, and to see somebody have that light bulb moment going, I can do this. And as you said, when you introed, it doesn't matter if you're not at the front. It doesn't matter, you don't have to be competitive. It's about being on your bike. I mean, being in nature and seeing the stuff that you see when you're on your bike is just unparalleled. So, yeah, I think my love for it just keeps getting more and bigger and better. The more disciplines you take on, mountain biking in South Africa is a big thing. Gravel's now becoming a huge thing here, where you're just off the road as well. You're not dealing with the traffic. Your biggest worry is that a squirrel's going to run across your path, and you can hit the squirrel because you don't want to hit the squirrel. So, yeah.
But for who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s saying, I'm too old now to learn to cycle. I mean, you learned at a young age. Is there such thing as being too old to learn to cycle?
Never.
Or can anyone, where do we go if we want to take up cycling or we want to take up just a commuting route on a bicycle? How do we get that confidence and how do we just get about doing it?
I think that's exactly it. It's about starting, however you land up starting. My mom, and I hope she doesn't mind me saying this on a live broadcast, but she only learned to swim at the age of 40. And it was a massively daunting thing. She had a really traumatic experience as a kid and learned to swim at the age of 40. I literally had to drive her to her first thing because I knew she would have gone shopping instead of going to the class. So, it's a daunting thing when you're older and you're kind of going, I never learned to do this. Can I, can't I? You go to a safe space. You take somebody with you who knows a little bit about what they're trying to teach you. And where there's a car-free zone, whether it's a park or a car park, deserted shopping center car parks are a great place to learn. Even if you're sitting on a spinning bike, just to get the motion of what a pedal feels like, how the balance kind of works once you've done it on a spin bike, and you're able to then get onto a road sort of surface and kind of practice that motion. Definitely. I mean, the old thing, I mean, we've got a club that's linked to Bia here, and I've got, my youngest is just out of uni, so 21, 22, and our oldest is Granny Jean. And I tell you what, I tell Granny Jean every time I see her that when I'm her age, I want to be just like her. She's unbelievable. I mean, she's not the fastest, she'll tell you that straight up, but she just loves it. She absolutely loves it. And it's a number, it's age really has zero to do with it. The advent of e-bikes and the growth of e-bikes, it allows you to hop on a bike with a little bit of help if you're a bit concerned about going too far, or, they might be a little bit more expensive, but you don't have to spend the earth. I've got friends down in Plato who have just bought e-bikes, and they're getting people riding. Jesus, you're getting out of a car, you're getting onto a bicycle. How can it be wrong? So definitely never too old. Commuting to work is a whole other ball game because of, obviously, if you're doing it in the dark, there's safety issues. If you're on busy roads, there's also safety issues if you're not that confident. So you kind of want to build up to that, go into the safe places, learn to get your confidence on the bike, stopping, starting, pulling off at a traffic light, those sorts of things, the basics. You want to get that stuff right before you start really taking on a big chunk, and depending on obviously how far your commute is. But at the moment, we want to try and get people out of cars, get people off of public transport with this whole COVID nonsense going on. So, the bike is a really amazing way to do that. And, jeepers, never too old, never. Never.
I love that. Ollie says she's got a question. She says, please, Jenny, advise me how to sit comfortably on bicycles. I always end up with a sore tushy. As a woman, we can all, I think anyone in cycling can relate to that question. Any advice there?
Yes, lots. The first thing is the bigger the saddle is not necessarily the more comfortable. So the first thing a lot of beginners do is they throw on a gel seat cover and they think, oh, this is nice and soft. No, all it's doing is putting more layers between your skin and the saddle. The idea is you want to have as little between your skin and that saddle as possible. So actually, the more bike fit you get, and when I say bike fit, I mean saddle fit, i.e. bum fit, the less you want between your skin and that saddle. So you want a thinner, harder saddle. You also want to have cycling specific shorts. So by cycling specific, I mean it's a lycra short with a specifically made, basically chamois pad that's attached to that. It's antibacterial, designed not to be worn with any undies. That against your skin with something called chamois cream, which is like a little bit of baby bum cream to stop chafing. The less you have between the two is better. So definitely the more you do it, the less it hurts. So we call it, as I said, bum fitness. We found it now. We had an event this weekend. So you do a long ride on the first day. The second day you get on that saddle and you kind of go, ooh, Anna. And by the third day, it's even more Anna, but it's the time that it takes for it to be less sore obviously diminishes over time. So you got to stick with it. You got to have as few layers in between, and definitely no undies while you're riding, because they just make chafing problems. The other thing is saddle width. So nothing to do with how big your bum is. As you stand in the mirror and go, oh, my bum's too big. It's got nothing to do with that. It's got to do with how wide your sit bones are. And basically you want to sit down and do a measurement. If you Google it on YouTube, you can see all sorts of ideas of how to do this. You basically sit and you get a measurement of the two bones and the width between those to get a width of how wide your saddle is. So just because you have a big wide bum doesn't mean you need a big wide saddle. Your sit bones might only be that big or that far apart. So you want to make sure that that saddle measurement is right. That'll stop the bum sore as well. But it does get better over time if you're doing all of those things.
It does. It does. I can. I can definitely attest to that. And always when I mention the chamois cream, because a lot of women, we don't actually speak about the fact that you shouldn't wear underwear when you cycle, that you should be using chamois cream. I had to get guys to explain all of this to me. Where are my girlfriends in times like this? But yes, I'm so glad we're sharing that.
It's so taboo. Yeah.
Completely. You've started an incredible company in the UK called Bia. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So Bia is a brand that I created. I kind of had it in my head for about 8 years, maybe more. And I finally was able to label it Bia about 5 odd years ago. So Bia is the Greek goddess of strength and force. And so she epitomizes power. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what it really is all about is identifying the power that's in you and the strength that you have internally to take on whatever it is that life throws at you, whether it's on a bicycle or not. So 16 years ago, I was bitten by a tick and wasn't treated correctly. And I've now developed basically chronic Lyme disease, which I went through a series of ups and downs and seeing 1,000 different doctors before we actually identified it, only about 3 years ago. And through all of those ups and downs, the one thing I learned to do was to back myself in any situation, and that things will come right. If you just believe, you do the hard work, you do the hard yards, things will come right. And it's that power that's in you that you've got to tap into, the power, which I call the power of I. And that basically is what sort of has really made this entire sort of ecosystem of what is now. I've now opened the Bia Hub, which we opened right at the beginning of lockdown. But basically, that's, as I say, an ecosystem of all these different things. We've got a cafe, because what's cycling without coffee and good coffee?
Of course.
And we've got a workshop, so we obviously can help you look after your bike. We've got a little retail area where, like we've just had that conversation on saddles, we can have those deep, meaningful conversations. We sell a brand here now called Fons, which is named after Alfonsina Strada, who was the first and only woman to ever ride the Giro d'Italia. She entered.
Wow.
In 1924, she wrote Alfonsin Strada, and they saw it on the start list and they thought nothing of it. And they all took to the start line and they were like, that's a woman. And by then they couldn't stop it because she had entered, and she was amazing. And same sort of very much similar to the Bia brand of backing yourself, going full tilt until you can't anymore. And she, on the one of the most horrendous weather days, she didn't finish in the time limit, so she didn't finish the race. But you know, that brand is built around taking cycling as a whole thing to a woman and saying, you don't have to have the pink same old that everyone has from this year's model. You know, with this size and this, because you're a woman, you must be this. You and I have got the same problem. We're taller than most men. You know, we're not the smallest, most petite girls. So the normal sort of woman size stuff doesn't really work for us. So this brand is all about your height, your shoulder width, all of those things it takes into account in its customization and presents you a beautiful option that isn't a stock standard anything. So that's really the kind of niche and gap that I've sort of seen where, you know, you say women, you have to talk to your male friends to ask them all these questions. They don't know a lot of the answers because they're not women. They simply don't know. So you can't say, I mean, exactly why is it so at this part? Why? He doesn't know that. He doesn't have that part. So we shouldn't have any conversations with guys. You know, it's not about like them and us and boys and girls and guys. It's just about different things. And exactly as you said, we have those conversations here over coffee and cake. And like, why does this part hurt? Is it supposed to hurt? No, that's not meant to hurt. Something's wrong. And you've got a saddle sore. Okay, this is how you deal with it. So it's really to create an open, inviting, welcoming space to people. And we have men here. Funnily enough, we have a lot of men who are too intimidated to go into most sort of high-end kind of lycra brigade shops where they feel completely out of depth, even as men. So they even come in here and kind of have those conversations with me. So
that's great.
You know, I think cycling as a sport is so arrogant and so up its own self-importance that we actually need to demystify a huge amount of what cycling is.
Yes.
Make it welcoming. You know, we get people here who go, I don't have a fancy road bike, but it needs to serve. It doesn't matter that it's not fancy. It needs to be looked after. It's going to take you on the travels that you're going to go on. Let's look after it. So, yeah, it's an interesting thing, cycling as a sport. But hopefully this sort of creation of this Bia brand and sort of each part of the hub. So we've just done one now in the midst of the whole COVID thing. I call them escapes. So we go off to exotic cycling destinations and we have literally a weekend of spoils. So one of the things that I've discovered with women is that they don't think they're worthy of spending money on themselves because little Johnny or little Betty needs school shoes and or a trip overseas or whatever the case is. And their second thing is, I'm not good enough because I'm not, exactly as you're saying, I'm not at the sharp end, I'm not winning, I don't deserve to have, the expensive bike with a nice componentry. And it's been a very interesting understanding of that psychological almost undercurrent that women are sort of brought up with, that they're less than, that they're not, they should put their family first or they should put that first. Why can't you spoil? Promise you, if it's a heterosexual relationship, the husband's damn well spending the money on him. Why can't you be spending it on you? And if we're going to be saving for the family or little Johnny's camping trip, we should save that together. Why should a woman always take less than because she's the woman? So it's been a very interesting thing learning all of those sort of things that we've picked up over the years as women. So these escapes are meant to take us into happy spaces, pushing people a little bit out of their comfort zone. Can I go that far? Can I climb that high? Can I do it 4 days or 3 days in a row? And will somebody spoil me and look after me? And we do all of those things. And it's really all about them on that weekend. So they get spoiled rotten. Everything is done for them. You're told to be here for this time, eat at this time, arrive here to have that done. Your bike's taken care of. Here's your kit. Here's your spoil. So it's really all about this whole sort of, as I keep saying, ecosystem of looking after women and sort of making them feel special, really. So I feel like I'm talking a lot.
No, it's okay. It's absolutely incredible. And I'm so envious. I wish you could bring something like that to South Africa, because I'm trying to think of, we've had the woman ride that we've just done through the Greenpoint Park, which is done on Women's Day. And then we have a thing called Heels on Wheels. And that's one of the only 2 women rides that I've seen or even heard of in South Africa. Could be wrong. So if anyone's watching and they want to correct me, those are just what I've heard of. So you can correct me in the comment section. But I think we should be doing more for female cyclists, especially the back end.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, all those years of doing what is now known as Ride Joburg or 947 Cycle Challenge in those days, we watched the participation level go from about 18% I would say, 20 years ago. And it's crept up to about 26, 27% at its height, and now it's starting to go back again. And, at the end of the day, women have to feel safe in order to do something. And at the moment, being on the road isn't safe. Obviously, South Africa has its own challenges in terms of safety and riding in groups and all of those sorts of things. So that's not necessarily the case everywhere else. But certainly cars don't make women feel safe. So I honestly believe that gravel bikes are the next kind of big thing for women because, A, it gets you off the road. B, I mean, bless her. We've got one of our club members, Ruth. I think Ruth, God, I hope I'm getting this right, but I think she's 63. She has the best screaming joy on her gravel bike. It's like it's watching a kid, and she's 63. She absolutely loves it. We go through puddles, and she shrieks with joy while the mud flies everywhere, and it's fabulous, So there's so much that's out there that if we just think outside the box a little bit and take people on a journey somewhere that they didn't necessarily think was where they were going to go. You don't have to be on a road bike in a tight pack in Lycra to be, getting the best out of it. You can be going and having fun in all sorts of different ways on your bike. I mean, even fat biking in the snow. Oh my God, if you ever get a chance to do that,
never.
It is the best fun you can have. Honestly,
you're gonna have to explain what fat biking is, because we've got first-time cyclists here, and what a gravel bike is. So we're gonna have to take it back a step quickly.
One step back. So you get a mountain bike, which is typically a flat bar with a fat tire, and it can go anywhere. Fat tire. Yeah, we won't go into inches and millimeters, it's a bit too complicated. But basically a big, thick, knobbly tire. So that's almost like a motorbike tire, not quite as thick, but with those big knobbles. The cutest thing here is happening. My puppy is now half out of her bed, upside down, paws in the light. So we kind of move halfway up. Too precious.
We need to see pictures.
I'll bombard you.
Yes, please.
So we go from that to obviously a road bike, which is a typical sort of racy handlebars where you see your Tour de France kind of riders are riding with those. Slick tires, thin tires, very much a racehorse kind of bike. Very light, very high tech in terms of how it's made with carbon fiber and all of those things, disc brakes. So you get those sort of two on either side. And then in the middle, you get something called a gravel bike, which is a kind of a combination of the two. So it looks like a road bike in terms of its sort of geometry with a drop handlebar, but it's got sort of the knobblier tires on it. So it's designed to go not hardcore off-road, but, Jeep track, gravel roads. Around us here, we've got the most amazing paths around dams and lakes and things. So it gets you off the road. But obviously, if you have to go on the road, we call it surf and turf. So a little bit off, a little bit on. Then you're not working as hard as you would if you had a fat mountain bike tire on the road. You're just working so much harder than you need to get the same distance or effect. So, and then fat bike is almost on the other side of the mountain bike spectrum, which is literally like a motorbike tire, designed to go through heavy terrain, either sand, beach sand, snow, and you have the most amount of fun on those bikes because they're as heavy as anything. So you work so bloody hard in that same sort of space of time. But the places you can go. I mean, you can ride on all of the compact sort of cross-country skiing tracks, and the best amount of fun. You pop a battery on it with an e-bike kind of version, so you go climbing up the snow, and then you come hammering it down. It's just, everyone's like, it's so cold. Well, just put another layer of clothes on and off you go. I promise you're going to be working hard enough that you're going to get very nice and warm. So, this people say to me all the time, how do I deal with the cold here? I mean, you add another layer of clothes on and you go. There's so much technology now in kit. You're talking about commuting. People commute through winter here. This morning it's raining cats and dogs for the first time in a really long time. So suddenly the winter's sort of shifting in. And even on my drive in this morning, there was a lady commuting. She had a full-on raincoat up to here. You just adjust. You do it and off you go. So, excuses are a bit tired for me. If you're able to go and do it, get out there and have fun. Because I promise you go out with the right attitude and the right mindset that you're going to have fun, you have the biggest fun. So,
well, the comments coming through right now, Kathy Liezel, saying some of the happiest times have been on a bike. Joanna says, I love the sense of freedom and achievement part, enticing.
Definitely.
So thank you so much. It's just nice hearing that people are enjoying riding. And I wish we could get more women on bicycles.
Absolutely.
If people want to get hold of you, if they want to ask any advice or any tips, what's the best way that we can get hold of you from South Africa?
So I've got a website called Bia Cycling. So it's biacycling.com. All of my contacts on there, literally 24/7, my phone goes. I've got a WhatsApp number on there, email. There's a whole lot of info on there about all the bits and pieces of what Bia stands for and what it is. We share videos. We have, as I said, we've got a club. So we have a hashtag Bia Friday Ride Day every week. So every Friday morning we go out here as a club and we basically have an 8:30 start and a 10 o'clock start, and we break into groups of 6, COVID guidelines, and off we go. And literally, I think not this past week, but the week before, we had, I think, in the 8:30 wave, we had 3 groups of 6, and at the 10 o'clock wave, we had 3. And then we've got a lady called Charlie, who's an police lady, who's doing something called Charlie's Angels. So exactly those kind of women that you're talking about, not really confident, but unsure. Charlie takes them under her wing, gets them using cleats, gets them feeling confident on the road, kind of guides them in slowly into group riding and feeling safe in a bunch and on the road. And so, anything, ask away. We've also got a Bia cycling group on Facebook. It's a closed group just to kind of keep it ladies only. And again, as I said, it's not to keep men out. It's just to be able to feel safe enough to say, should this part be hurting? And the stupid thing is it should be okay for men to hear that, because actually at the end of the day, it's anatomy and it doesn't really matter. Because I promise you, boys have far more bits that hurt than what the girls do.
Let's not get started on that.
So, there's all sorts of forums that have interaction with people. I think the biggest thing is do some research, follow some key people, and, keep talking to influencers and people who know their stuff. You don't want to be fed bullshit, really, because a lot of people get fed a lot of it. You get put on the wrong size bike, you get told that this is important, that's important, it's actually not. So it's difficult to break through all of that and really understand what is meaningful and what is important. But I would just say jump in. When you've opened your first magazine, you look at it and go, oh my God, this is like a minefield. But the more you read, the more you read reviews of things and diverse reviews, read women's reviews of things. More and more places are doing a women's thing. Listen to women's podcasts. There are a few really good cycling specific and women specific podcasts that they talk about the women's racing, which is really exciting as well. But they talk about women's issues and things that pertain to women riding more than just riding. So, the more info you can bombard yourself with, the better you'd be positioned to really get on and have fun, because it shouldn't be sore. Nothing should hurt for an extended period of time. But, it does hurt for a little while. And obviously your legs will hurt. But the more you do it, the better it is. I mean, our quote of the week on the wall today is it never gets easier. You just go faster. And it's true, because you're pushing yourself all the time to do more, to do it in a shorter time. But at the end of the day, as long as you're out there doing it, that's what counts. So, yeah.
And that's the most important things. Thank you, Jenni. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be keen to follow and be updated. Elton David's quickly popping on before, saying more education about PMS, menstrual cycle, and exercise needs to be spread. That's a topic. I'm going to actually have Elton on Fitness Friday next week, and we're going to talk about this exact topic.
Yeah.
So this is something we don't talk about either. And Elton Davids, as a male cycling coach and running coach, does talk about this. So this is definitely something we will talk about.
There's a fabulous app called FitR Woman, FITR Woman. And it does exactly that. It tracks your cycles and it tells you what to be eating at what point in your cycle to get the best out of yourself. So at different stages in the month, your body's burning energy differently. So it's saying in this phase, eat that to get the better performance, so you don't feel as sluggish or feel as, so definitely worth reading more about, for sure.
Absolutely. I'll actually share, Pop Sugar had an article recently about what to do, how to train at different times of the month for women. Yeah. I'll share that down below. FitR Woman, is that the app?
Yep.
I'll share that, as well as your social media handles and contacts as well.
Brilliant.
Jenni, thank you so much for your time. Give Phoebe, your pup, a big hug from us.
She's still passed out.
Bless her.
Play.
And thank you for your time. And I know you need to get back to the store. And we look forward to following you. Just give us your Instagram handles for the store, for the Bia Hub again.
Everything is BIA_cycling. So if it's Insta, we're quite active on Insta because it's a nice platform. I'm on Twitter, Bia's on Twitter, but find Twitter quite a negative space in cycling. So we kind of do the minimum there, and then on Facebook as well. So Bia Cycling, follow
Jenni,
us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Liezel.
Definitely give you a follow. Super. Take care. Thank you so much, and happy cycling.
Indeed, rubber side down.
That was Jenni Green joining us all the way from the UK, an incredible woman that did incredible things with cycling in South Africa, just sharing some tips, some advice, and answering your cycling related questions. Next Friday, we'll have Elton Davids. I'm so glad he's watching live. He'll be joining us live next Friday, talking about all things fitness. We'll talk about how important it is to train around your menstrual cycle. And we'll talk all things fitness and exercise next week on Fitness Friday Live. If you do have any questions for Jenni, just post it in the comment section down below. She is watching this live and she'll be able to answer any of your questions, or get hold of her on Instagram or Facebook. We'll post the details down below. I'll catch you again next Friday. Stay safe, enjoy your cycling, and most importantly, have fun with your fitness. Chat next Friday. Cheers.